One way to describe Walter Brennan is as one of the most memorable actors in Hollywood history. He won 3 times for Best Supporting Actor, and was even up for a 4th time. Walter seemed like a country boy because he was born in New England. He may be best known for his roles in Western movies, like Deputy Stumpy in Rio Bravo and Judge Roy Bean in The Westerner. There was something clever about the way Walter played his different movie roles that made fans all over the world love him. But behind Walter's great acts, rumors of his constant racism, crazy paranoia and hate kept going around. This made fans question everything they thought they knew about the nice old man they had always known. Let's look at Walter Brennan's life to find out how he became Hollywood's most evil person. Wilmer Andrew Brennan was born on July 25, 1894 in Lynn, Massachusetts. His parents were Irish immigrants, and he was born just a few houses away from his family's home. His father was an engineer who liked to come up with new ideas, and his mother ran the household. His father wanted him to become an engineer when he was growing up in Swampscott, where he was born. So he went to Rindge Technical School in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in 1914. It was a prep school for MIT. We all know that you can't hide your love for long. As a child, Walter loved playing, so while he was at Rindge Technical High School, he was in some school plays and vaudeville productions, an amateur acting group. He said, "I just didn't know how to tell my father I would rather spout lines than plot stress curves." But this problem was fixed when the U.S. entered World War I. Walter joined the U.S. Army when he was young and was sent to France to serve with the Private 101st Field Artillery Regiment for 2 years. In a terrible fight one day, Walter was hurt when mustard gas got into his throat and affected his vocal cords. It might have been a good thing in the end, because it gave him his unique high-pitched voice. He was kicked out of the army and sent back to the U.S. after healing from the accident. This is where he began working as a business reporter for a Boston newspaper. He was also a driver for a bank, dug ditches, and worked as a lumberjack. Soon he made up his mind to focus on real estate. He became very rich with this new business. His wealth was gone though, when the stock market crashed in 1925. He began making plans to move to Guatemala and work as a pineapple farmer there. He was making his sales pitch when one of his coworkers heard it and liked it. He told him to try going to LA to work as an extra in movies, where he could make $7.50 a day. Maybe this gave him back the drive to act that he had lost, and his fiancée Ruth Wells helped him get the courage to tell his family and her family about his dreams. However, neither family was happy to hear this, especially the Wells. His father-in-law didn't agree at all and wouldn't bless their marriage. However, this didn't stop them from getting married. Right after the ceremony, they left for California. He said they had an old touring car that ran pretty well, but the way it was stored was scary. The top flapped and the side curtains came loose during a storm. An extra strong wind then lifted the top of the driver's seat area off. It was surprising that Walter's new wife wasn't upset by what happened. Walter even said, "But my new wife was up to the task." In response to the event, she put an umbrella up through the tier, opened it, and we were on our way again. That line was probably used in 2 or 3 comedies. When they got to California, things weren't as simple and easy as they thought. They were amazed by how many skilled actors they saw in Hollywood and around town. However, Walter wasn't here to mess around and got right to work as soon as he got there. He joined the long line outside the casting offices by following other people. He met Gary Cooper here, who was also having the same kind of trouble. But then finally, a chance came up. His words were that I finally got a break, but only because I knew how to behave badly. It was clear that Walter was a man who never gave up, and this story shows that it was true. Walter had been in line for a long time one afternoon, but the casting director wouldn't let him in. Walter saw a group of artists trying to make a donkey bray. He was mad and upset. He walked up to the group and offered to do the sound himself, but only if he could be in the movie too. They gave him a shot right away, and Walter did a great bray. He would first appear on screen making this funny noise. After this, he started getting small parts in a number of movies, mostly parts without speech. After that, he had a number of small roles, including parts of young cockneys and old patriarchs. Some of his early roles were in Webs of Steel, 1925, and Lorraine of the Lions, 1925, among others. Richard Thorpe found Walter and used him as an extra in one of these. Walt had to be in more than 30 movies before he got his first one in 1930. Universal's fancy musical show King of Jazz, where he had a bigger part, but Walter had an accident in 1932. He is said to have lost some teeth while working on an action movie. In the movie, his opponent messed up and hit him so hard in the face that he lost most of his front teeth. Other stories said that he was actually hit in the mouth by a mule. He had to start using fake teeth after treatment. Walter looked 40 years older than he really was when he took out his false teeth. This gave him an edge over other people of his time when it came to acting like an old man. He would ask the director, with or without, whenever he was given a part to play. The directors were always lost and asked with or without what. Then he'll take off his false teeth and say, "I got my teeth kicked out. That's what made it happen." The part he played in The Wedding Night was his big break in the movie business. He was hired for a small part in the movie as a cab driver, but Goldwyn liked how he played the part so much that he made a long-term deal with him. This led to a bigger role in Barbary Coast, 1935, the first of 7 movies the actor worked on with director Howard Hawks. Walter himself confirms this by saying, "But I was lucky again," and then going on to talk about an old crime that happened in the Barbary Coast. "That set me up really well." Walt always had work to do after that. His big break came when he played the Swedish lumberjack Swan Bostrom in Goldwyn's 1936 movie Come and Get It. He won the first Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for this role. After only 2 years, he got his second Academy Award for his role as a grandfatherly horse farm owner in Kentucky. In 1940, he won his third Academy Award for his part as Judge Roy Bean in The Westerner, which also starred Gary Cooper. They both worked together a lot on other movies. Walter said that Coop didn't mind, which was true. Mr. Brennan said, "I guess. Anyway, he was one of the first people to tell me how happy he was that I won my third Oscar for that job. After that, we worked together a lot." Very strange. There have been 5 years between his wins. How did he do it? It's clear that the votes were fixed against him. Is that really true? Let's get into the specifics. In the 1930s and 1940s, when very few well-known stars had won more than 1 Oscar in their careers, this kind of thing didn't happen very often. What makes Brennan think he will win more in 5 years? He must have had a lot of help behind the scenes to get that much in such a short time. Well, maybe, but it would depend on what you mean by rigged. It's okay to have doubts about Walter, who won an Oscar. People thought he won so many Oscars so fast because extras could vote at that time, even though no one could argue with how good he was as an actor. It was said that his last 2 wins were his third win on his third selection for 1940s. Because The Westerner made such a scandal, the extras lost their right to vote. This looks like it's true because he only got 1 more nod after that rule was taken away all through his career. A nod for Best Supporting Player for Sergeant York, but he didn't win. Walt was excited about and liked his job. As he got bigger, he was happy with regular TV shows and family movies, which was fine. Thanks to getting older and more modern, he had turned down offers to be in regular TV shows at first. But in the late 1950s, he played Grandpa Amos on The Real McCoys, which was one of the most popular shows at the time. There were more than 200 scenes of him on the show before it ended. The show was about a poor family from West Virginia, who moved to a farm in Southern California. From 1957 to 1963, it was on. Before moving to CBS for its last season, The Real McCoys ran on ABC for 5 years. Walter and Irving Pincus, who created the show, together made Brennan Westgate Productions. When Walter got home from work, he told them what he needed. "I'd rather work in TV than movies, because there aren't any long breaks in between days. After making a movie, you wait for another good part. Not in front of the TV. Most of the year you work 5 days a week. I like that. Sunday night, I'm so excited for Monday morning that I can hardly stand it. Most people don't seem to enjoy their jobs as much as I do." He stuck to his beliefs, and was a guest star on shows of the Ford Television Theater, the Ethel Barrymore Theater, the Lux Video Theater, the Schlitz Playhouse, and the Screen Directors Playhouse. In the 1956 episode of Dick Powell's Zane Grey Theater, Vengeance Canyon, he played the old robber Joe. Between 1953 and 1954, he also played a singing judge on the ABC show Jukebox Jury. He kept acting in movies, like Gunpoint 1955, and Rio Bravo 1959, in which he starred with John Wayne and Dean Martin. Walter began performing animated shows after The Real McCoys became a hit. He also tried his hand at singing, and was on a number of records. Many people loved his song Old Rivers, which was about an old farmer and his mule. In 1962, Liberty Records put it out as a record. The other side was The Epic Ride of John H. Glenn. At its peak, Old Rivers was number 5 on the U.S. Billboard list. At that time, Brennan, who was 67 years old, was the oldest person still alive to have a top 40 hit. Walter made it back to the top 40 when he was 68 years old. This time it was with Mama Sang a Song on November 17, 1962. For Brennan Productions, Walter played the lead role in Shootout at the Big Sag in 1962. He played a bad guy river pirate in MGM's big 1963 movie, How the West Was Won. A lot of people his age had given up on the daily grind by this point, but Walter was still fighting for what he believed in. Walter, for instance, said he was a Roman Catholic, but he never told anyone about this information. I should just say, I'm too old not to be religious. It looks like we're losing something that a lot of people gave up for. He did, however, give a speech at Project Prayer, a protest held in 1964 at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles that drew more than 2,500 people. He said that taking prayer out of public schools was a sign of the end times and the coming down of the country. Anthony Asley, another actor, organized the event with the goal of getting a lot of letters sent to Congress in support of school prayer. In 1962 and 1963, the Supreme Court said that requiring prayer in public schools was unconstitutional, citing the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Walter was active in politics at the same time that he had a supporting role in the Disney movie, Those Calloway, 1965, which he shared with Brandon DeWide. He was asked to be the star of another ABC show in 1967. It was called The Guns of Will Sonnet, and ran from 1967 to 1969. A man in his 60s was looking for his gunfighter son in the 2-season show. After being in a few more movies, he joined the second season of the CBS show To Rome with Love, which ran from 1969 to 1971. He was in a movie with John Forsythe. He made a few guest turns on Alias Smith and Jones, but this was his last TV show as a regular cast member. He quickly got a part in Disney's Herbie Rides Again in 1973, but his health got worse, and he had to be replaced. His last movie role was in Western Smoke in the Wind, which came out in 1975 and was directed by Joseph Kane. Apart from his work, the stories weren't very good. They showed what kind of person he was, and what held him together. People thought Walter was racist and against civil rights. We will now look at some of the things he did that led people to this bad conclusion. Brennan was sure in the 1960s that the anti-war and civil rights groups were run by bad communists from other countries. It was said that Walter and Glee were celebrating when news came in that Martin Luther King Jr. had been killed. If someone would be happy about the death of another person, even if you two had different opinions, they must be a cruel monster. A lot of people would agree that being happy about someone else's brutal death was cruel. He thought that campaigners were just pawns being used by Marxists who wanted to take over the world. In statements from this time, he said that he didn't agree with these conspiratorial ideas. He told a reporter in one of his interviews that the riots in Newark and Watts and the protests in Birmingham, Alabama, were caused by black Americans who should have been happy with their lives. He gave them the impression that they were being riled up and annoyed by troublemakers with sneaky anti-American goals. He once said that the riots in Watts could be easily stopped with machine gun barrels. He seems like a very cold person. People started to ask each other these kinds of questions. Where was the nice man we saw on TV? He fully agreed with the idea that people should be killed for standing up for their rights. It did not matter if they were rich or had been through a lot. It also did not matter if they were his fans. This really was sad. In case that wasn't bad enough, Walter would go even deeper into the pit of hate and lies. He joined the John Birch Society with great ideas in order to connect with people and spread racism. This group was strongly against civil rights, had no shame about being biased, and was filled with hate. In 1965, he taped a few songs at a John Birch Society meeting where he used his famous Grandpa Amos voice to talk to the crowd. His hateful and racist ideas were spread through this platform. He told the people there that Congressman Adam Clayton Powell led the African Americans in the civil rights movement and used his power to help a communist take over the country. Some of his deeply held beliefs were so strong that he thought John Wayne was a communist. He had worked with, and even helped this person at some point in his life. It looks like this couldn't have happened, but it did. Walter was turning against people he knew, liked, and worked with. Not only that, but he also used the popularity of his well-known figure to make people hate each other. That was also wrong. He played Grandpa Amos on the TV show The Real McCoys, but he wasn't nearly as good and caring in real life. That was not at all like him. Everett Greenbaum, who wrote 32 episodes of The Real McCoys, said that Walter was a racist who often said hurtful things. Think about someone who worked with Walter for a long time telling everyone that about him. Most fans who were still not sure started to believe that this man did have flaws that had been ignored for so long. He had been hiding his racist views behind the nice, down-to-earth persona that people loved about him. Walt didn't stop there though. Even more people were shocked by him. When Senator Robert F. Kennedy was killed in 1968, the cast and crew of The Guns of Will Sonnet said that Brennan was happy about it. Who would do something like that? As someone who says they are a Christian, he did the exact opposite of what the Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself. Some might say Walter only became Christian because he was getting old though. He stood for the preservation of American ideals in movies, and was a well-known strict Republican. The fact that Martin Luther was happy when he died, made it look like he only hated black people. While Walter was happy about Kennedy's death, it became clear that he might just dislike freedom. He was sure that Robert F. Kennedy was a communist, and he called everyone around him a communist if they backed Kennedy. Walter thought that supporting any Kennedy's political views was the same as supporting Marx and Lenin. For instance, or to make a point, he backed Barry Goldwater in the 1964 U.S. presidential race because Goldwater had voted against the 1964 Civil Rights Acts. He also backed George Wallace in 1968 because he thought Richard Nixon was too left to be a Republican. In 1972, he backed John Schmitz, a far-right candidate. John Birch was a member of the Schmitz Society. He led the Finance Committee and did speech work for Schmitz's campaign ad. Besides that, he backed Ronald Reagan for governor of California in 1966 and again in 1970. It was clear that the man didn't like freedom or anything that let people choose for themselves. Walter was so sure that the Soviets were going to attack the U.S. to bring about communism and destroy democracy that he couldn't sleep at night. To deal with this, he spent money building a bunker under his Los Angeles home. In it he kept a lot of guns, food, and other things that would help him survive. He also told his daughter not to let his grandkids listen to the Beatles. It seemed like this band was the biggest in the whole world. His fear, he didn't want his children and grandchildren to carry on the sinfulness and evil of modern life. He built a movie theater, a variety shop, and the Indian Lodge Motel on the 12,000-acre Lightning Creek Ranch, which is 20 miles north of Joseph, Oregon. Maybe this is why he bought the ranch. So his family could live there without having to deal with the bad things that come with growth and development. You are kidding if you thought he stopped at his own family. People said that as he got older, he would ask his coworkers about their voting records. And if anyone admitted to voting for a Democrat or someone else very extreme, Walter would start to preach about how bad things were going to be for America. In the last few years of his retirement, he lived on his ranch in the Moore Park neighborhood of Ventura County. After a long illness, he died in Oxnard, California on September 21, 1974. He was 80 years old. The San Fernando Mission Cemetery in Los Angeles is where his body was buried. Ruth Wells, his wife, and their 3 children, Arthur, Walter, and Ruth, as well as their grandchildren, lived on after him. He worked for 50 years, and is still considered one of the best actors of all time by historians and critics. With over 230 movie roles, he had a lot of success that many of his peers would be proud of. He got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 6501 Hollywood Boulevard for it. To honor him, his picture hangs in the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. In 1970, he was admitted into the Hall of Great Western Performers there. Even though Walter was successful, he had a lot of problems, such as racist views, old-fashioned beliefs, and anxiety. Some might say that he was born during a time when no one knew any better, But that isn't a strong case, because other actors and actresses born during that time refused to act like Mr. Walter Brennan.